Hi, everyone. Stephen Van Tassel here, wildlife control consultant, giving you another episode of Living the Wildlife as part of the Pest Geek podcast family. We're really glad to have you on board. I am happy to have today Jordan Budenski of Bud's Nuisance Wildlife Removal out of the great state of Minnesota. So I actually drove through his area once and I was like looking at a billboard and I said, I know that guy. And if I'd have known you were there, I would have probably planned my trip a little better to stop by. But we were cruising around to get to Michigan, so it was like a billboard. That's how cool. How cool is that? Well, welcome aboard, Jordan.
Thanks, Steven. Yeah,
All right.
for billboards, I have 8 of them, and that's my primary source of advertising.
Yeah, and that works well for you.
It's been working very well for us, yeah.
How many years you been doing that?
The billboards we've been doing for 5 years now, but
Okay.
I've been doing the wildlife removal work for 12 years.
Okay. So what made you switch over to the billboard rather than internet based, or obviously the phone book's gone, or newspaper based, or neighborhood newspapers?
Every every market is different, obviously, if it's regional market, but even different trades. So plumbing, pest control, electricians, everything is completely different. And when I started, the industry had just kind of really started molding itself into let's help our neighbor
Hmm.
versus we're not going to help our neighbor. And it's kind of hush hush. But so anyways, I did almost every avenue of advertising there was, from newspaper to magazines, local magazines, penny savers, all the way up to magnets in restaurants. Phone books was a big one, multiple websites. And then I was like, well, let me try some billboards. And they had to be specific, right
Hmm.
hand reads, close to the road,
Yeah.
very visible, and no other views that were blocked, like trees or other billboards nearby. And those are very hard to find.
Yeah.
Well, found
Well,
them.
I don't know about your area. That didn't seem to be too hard to find because it's some kind of some big country up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, coming through that specifically where you had seen that one billboard of
Yeah.
mine, there's like 15 of them in a row. And if you
Okay.
notice, a lot of them were empty.
Well, maybe that's what
It's,
I missed. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that was right.
you're like,
So,
huh,
did you
nothing
try
up.
TV? Did you do TV?
I've done a TV ad, I've done radio. TV did not work well for me. It was a
Okay.
quick way to blow 5 grand. And
Ouch.
well, we did
Yeah.
some, I mean, I still have the ads, but I did the recordings. I went in, we did a package, and
Just didn't
pe-
work.
pest control is very weird where people call you when they need you,
Right. Right.
and when they don't,
Yep.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. I call it crisis. It's crisis driven. They
Sure.
like it's sort of like an undertaker, right? No one has an undertaker in their Rolodex, right? So, or their cell phone now. It's when you need one, then you start making the phone calls. They never think in advance for it. So no, I hear you. So that's really interesting. So you really like that billboard, and so you're able to evaluate its use because you ask people where they heard of you, and they just say the billboard.
Correct.
Okay.
So since when I started back in early, how should I say this? Late 2008 is when I started the company, and then as it developed, I was able to hire staff. So I had hired a full-time receptionist,
Yeah.
and where all our calls come in, all of that data is collected. Who calls, where they're calling from, how they found our information. And through the last 5 years, it's narrowing down to referral and then billboards.
Okay.
And I've got websites and I've got everything, but so I've shrunk my service area. I'm out in the country, so we
Yeah.
don't have big metropolitan areas. So I've shrunk my service area down to about 50 miles, 45
Wow.
miles,
Nice.
where I don't want to take those jobs, those big giant bat jobs that are 75 miles away. I don't want that. I want to stay near home so I can be home.
Yeah.
I'm There's a lot of work, and I'd rather just stay close to home and simplify it.
Yeah.
And
It's
my company has been growing every year. And this is my 12th year. Even this year, I
wow.
show growth.
No kidding. Wow. So how large of a population are you up there? I mean, it's what do you got up there for population?
So my demographic of my service area, we've done a couple of different assessments on it. Um, there's multiple ways of looking at it online, and then even through a census website where we try and figure out how many people are in each town
Yeah.
that way. And we've kind of figured out right around 300,000, four hundred
Okay.
thousand
All
people.
right. All right.
And so it's busy enough where I'm able to employ 4, 5 full-time staff
Wow.
plus
That's
myself.
amazing. That's amazing. So I mean, because you're kind of in a middle market there. I mean, just in contrast, I mean, Montana, we have what 1.2 million in our state. So you have about a third in your service area, a third of the population of my state. So, but that's enough to get you with that many workers in it. That's amazing. Now, do you do traditional pest control or is it strictly vertebrate?
No, so I started off as a fur trapper
Yeah.
back, back growing up when I was a kid, and then I developed my company off of that concept. And then just a couple of years ago, I got my master license for pest control.
Okay. All right.
Uh, but here's the funny thing is I refuse to do chemical application, liquid application.
Yeah.
I've got sensitive skin, and my skin can't handle the even slight contact with any type of chemical,
Okay.
regardless of the PPE that we're supposed to wear.
Wow. How about
I
so you rodenticides? Do you do the block baits for
I do
mice and rats?
so primarily, yeah, mice and rats is what I use my license for,
Okay.
and that's 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 becoming more and more popular, because we're throwing in the trapping,
Yeah.
and I actually do a lot of rat trapping and small rodent trapping.
Okay. So you go in. So your method is you go in your marketing tools. You go in, you just tell people, look, we're gonna hammer the population with traps. Then you do a follow up, a cleanup with some rodenticide bait stations. You just kind of
Side, yeah, and then we'll do repairs on structures.
okay,
The majority of our work is residential. I do minimal commercial, like I
okay,
mean minimal. I'm not, when people look at company values for exit strategies with a residual income,
hmm
I'm not really looking at that.
okay,
It's kind of a silly thing, but I'm more of a here and now kind of guy.
yeah,
We're right now, we're booked out several months with bat work alone. And then I have
wow,
multiple smaller trapping contracts that we're busy.
yeah,
And so when we do slow down, like it's coming up here, right? We're experiencing very warm weather in southern Minnesota right now. It's 55 degrees out. It's November 28th.
hmm
Usually our lake is completely frozen by the 15th to the 20th of November almost every year.
yeah,
And so with the busy season's winding down, it's getting too cold for sealants to cure on structures properly. We can do trapping, we can do some metal repair work, some squirrel work right now, but we also do trap building. And so one of my secondary companies, it's Bud's Trap Company LLC, on top of Bud's Nuisance Wildlife Removal LLC. So I have two separate LLCs.
hmm
I invent and manufacture small rodent traps. I've got a couple. I'm sure you're familiar with one of the main ones. It's called the rodent tank.
yeah. Can you hold? Do you have a copy? You have one there for the video?
I do not have one in the video. No,
Oh,
no.
that's too
That'd
bad.
be so, yeah. They're
Maybe
all out in the shop.
I'll probably maybe I'll pop one in on the video. So yeah, talk about the rodent tank because I understand it's not being produced anymore.
Right, correct. So I invented this trap, this design, similar. There's other variations out there. There's a tube trap.
Yeah,
There's some very, very old models, some European models of similar box traps.
yeah.
This is a lethal style trap. It's 7 inches long, 4 inches wide, 4 inches tall, with half-inch flanges. It weighs just under 3 pounds. It's like a 24-pound double torsion spring. It's a lethal trap. It's meant as a positive set trap. You can make it as a baited set. My first and only run that I've done, I did 500 traps, and I'm winding down to the last couple.
Mm.
So it wasn't, maybe I didn't market it right. I didn't sell a ton of them. They're very expensive because they're made
Yeah.
locally here. And my
And they're a
margin,
tank. They are a tank. I'll
well,
put a picture in on when I do the cut of the video. So it's a tank. And make sure
it,
mine's in the mail, right? You got mine
right,
in the mail yet?
yeah,
All right.
yes.
Okay. I got to have one at
Well,
least for
it's,
historical purposes.
it's made of steel.
Yeah.
They're powder coated. The double torsion spring is waxed. Again, I mentioned I'm a trapper by heart, by
Yep.
trade.
Yep.
And so it increases the speed and strength and then also durability, but they really are a tank. It's bolted, it's welded steel.
Yep.
So I had a couple of first designs, and then I had a run. I made my first couple hundred run, and I had a little flaw design on the trigger system where it caught, and so I had to modify it and change it.
Yeah.
Go back to all the customers that had purchased them, and that was one of my hindering factors, I believe, in the production long term of this, where if I would have put more time into my R&D, my
Yeah.
research and development, I may have sold more. But I put a quality name out there.
Yeah.
A quality product, I should say, where even if that trigger does break, I sent everybody a new one, offered them a discount if they purchased other traps, and which most of them have.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that have bought them have bought multiple of them.
Yeah. See, I would like to see it continue personally. I think that certainly the R&D hurt you, but I don't think it hurt you that much. I think part of the problem is, my theory is that because it's such a traditional industry, it's very hard to get wildlife control operators to adopt a new tool,
Yeah.
whatever the tool is. It's very hard. And I tell manufacturers, you got to wait 5 years. You got to hang on for 5 years before you reach that plateau, where that
Sure.
plateau of continuance. If you can make it to 5 years, typically that's when things start to take off to the extent that they will in this industry. It's a very small industry. We're only 10% of the pest control industry. So it's a long road. I get it. It's not trying to be critical here. You have to have the endurance for your information to get out there until finally someone says, well, maybe I'm going to give that a try. And
Right.
then that's part of the problem, the traditionalism of the industry.
I agree. And so when I initially started the wildlife company, my Bud's Nuisance Wildlife Company, I implemented the manufacturing and the just distribution of my traps as a supplement. And then just recently, this last year, I separated entities.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing it, I was looking as an investment. I'm going to put X amount of dollars down. I'd like to see a return within X amount of time.
Right.
And
right.
It took longer than expected, but I did win. And it's looking at, well, where should I put my capital?
Yeah.
And so I kept shifting it around. So I did the rodent tank. I had great success. I still have a bunch for myself that are safe. They're still brand new. And when I need them for my company, I'll be using them.
Yeah.
But I think we're down to like the last 30 that I have in stock. And then that's for retail. And then there's 2 other people that carry them. And I'm not sure on how many they have left. Okay. They only stock like 50 or 100 units. I'm not sure.
Well, why don't you tell them who they are? So if people want to purchase one, where they can get one from.
Yep. So Beast Wildlife, Keith Markham up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was the first one to stock. I'm a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Wild Beast Products.
Okay.
And then out of Michigan, it would be the Animal Trap Supply Company. I think it's John White. Another great company. He's was a couple of years ago. Don't quote me on his time frame of when he took over, started that company, but it's another caveat to wildlife control supplies. He has a lot of inventory where he supplies a lot of supplies for the wildlife and pest control industry.
All right. So he's a competitor of wildlife control supplies then?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
He's one of them.
Yep. And so and does wildlife control supplies have it?
Nope. When
Alan
Hewitt owned the company, he no longer owns it to my understanding.
Yeah.
He had sold off, but we tried to make a deal and the deal didn't work out. And like I'd mentioned, these are made I'm having people make them. I'm not a metal worker by trade at all. And so I call me the brains of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
I come up with an idea, I run it through a team, and they say, well, we can do this, this, and this. And all of that costs money into the bottom
Right.
line.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why this American made product costs so much. I don't have that. I don't have the metal shop to do it. Mind you, the metal shop that they're laser cut, they're being made out of New Ulm, just 6 miles north of me. I'm south. I'm on a farm site.
Yeah.
And the products are all made in Minnesota here. The steel may not come from the U.S., but
right.
It is American made and assembled and
But
veteran owned.
And it's going to be years. I mean, the trap's going to last for years. I mean, when you hold it, it's like, yeah, it's an amazing. If just like a foothold's going to last you for 20 years, this is going to last you for 20 years and probably longer than that.
This is definitely one that's going to be around. I have some, so I'm part of other associations, you know, like the National Wildlife Control Operators Association.
Yeah.
Almost all of the trapping associations in the U.S. I'm a life member of a couple of them.
Okay.
Some of the collectors, so I'm part of a collectors association, they actually reached out and purchased them just to put on their shelf, like, okay, this is another addition.
Oh, yeah.
They don't exist until up to 6 years ago. I started the idea, and it took 1.5 years, 2 years, and then finally I had them produced, and it's been 3.5, 4 years right now.
Yeah.
And so with that idea, looking at investment ideas, you know, I've been holding on to several other trap ideas until now, where I've got them sitting on a desk of a manufacturer right now, where the plan was, before coronavirus shut down the economy, or the effects of everything, I was going to run it this year, but now I push it to next year. So another trap I'm coming out with, we call it the connector.
The connector.
It's smaller, it weighs less.
Yeah.
It's a little stronger, and it's more versatile.
Stronger than the tank?
Uh-huh.
Are you sure the jaws aren't going to break the walls or whatever? It's going to be.
Well, stronger in the sense when you go smaller and there's less components and it's less welds.
Okay.
The durability, the strength, you know, the spring strength, you can't go much stronger, or you're going to start separating limbs, and you don't want that.
Right. You don't want that. So the connector, well, that's a great. So talk about the connector then.
So right, this connector, it's a small flat unit. A comparative would be a coral trap. So I've talked to James Coralsill up in Canada.
Yeah.
And we've been in touch. And when he came out with a dogless design, I had talked to him before that came out, and I was like, hey, you know, I've got this idea, I'm coming out with it. And he's like, well, that's funny, because I'm coming out with it too.
All right.
So it is a dogless style trap.
Okay.
But it's a lethal trap. So you can use it as a baited set, a pass-through set. It's small enough to put into a gutter.
Nice.
And that's where I'm going to try to push it. And this particular trap, I am going to try to run multiple distributors across the country.
Nice.
So I can push numbers.
So the question, so you could be used as a baited set, blind set. This is probably like a squirrel trap, primarily?
Right, primarily a rodent trap. So rats, you know, like I mentioned, I do a lot of rat trapping on farms around here. And like with the rodent tank, I had caught tons of rats before I actually manufactured large runs of these.
Yeah.
So now with the connector, I'm going to put it into my use, my business use, before I actually release it to the public.
Sure.
And so it is going to be a rodent, and then all spectrums of the squirrels, all the way down from flying squirrels, the red squirrel, pine squirrel, the gray, the fox.
Nice.
We call country squirrels. And it should work out well.
So it'll be sensitive enough for a flyer. That's nice.
Yeah, very sensitive.
Anything smaller than a flyer? Do you think it'll go down to mice level, or is that just too small?
it's too small.
Yeah.
So looking at the points of the trap, the connector, looking at the kill area, the kill bar, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very small kill. We call it a kill site or kill area where
Yeah.
that kill bar comes down. It's small enough, but I don't want it so sensitive because I don't want mice to get caught. I want them to
Right.
pass over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Similar to coyote trappers where they keep the pan tension at certain strength, 4 or 5 pounds, so the skunk doesn't set it off, or the possum,
Mm-hmm.
or you can tighten up the tension.
So talk a little bit about some of our audience may not know what a dog is. Can you just describe what a dog is for them? Because they may not know what that is.
What do
The
you mean?
dog of the trap. You said yours is a dogless trap. So explain
Oh,
what a
yes,
dog of
yes.
the
I'm
dog
sorry.
of the trap is. So some of our audience may not be familiar with that term.
Sure. So in the fur trapping world, if you look at a foothold trap, you've got the jaws, you've got the frame, which is the basic build of it, and then you have the trap pan, and usually the metal bar that comes over from the trap frame, it comes over the trap jaw, and it sets in the trap pan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that metal piece is called the trap dog.
Right.
Now, I don't know the history of why it was named a trap
Yeah,
dog.
I don't either.
I'm not that.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, who made
No.
it the dog? But yeah, that's exactly right. So yours is not going to have that little metal piece. So the metal piece is what holds the jaw down when it's connected between the frame of the trap and the pan, which is the part where the animal steps on it. So if you look at a trap, anybody out there, just look at that. You have the pan, which is usually a circle or a square, and the animal steps on it, and that releases it. There's a bar, and when the pan goes up like this, the bar releases, which allows the jaws to close, and that metal bar is the dog. So his is going to be dogless, which has a lot of advantages. So why don't you explain some of those advantages?
Well, the advantages are you're not going to get thrown catches. What I mean a thrown catch, I mean
Yeah.
the trap dog would usually throw a rodent. So again, looking at the Coro trap, the rodent style, and some of the
Yeah.
other larger ones of his, I was having problems with that. I love the traps. I own a lot of them. I use a lot of them, but I did not like where the animal would get thrown off before the kill bar would come down and connect.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the ideal, the quickest, the most humane dispatch I can have,
Yeah.
with minimizing the amount of struggle and the amount of fluid being leaked out, whether it's blood or saliva, depending on the size of the animal.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at that as well with like the rodent tank. I caught a variety of animals in that. We've caught mice in that. We've caught small rats, little baby rats, adult rats, all sizes of squirrels,
Wow.
pine marten, possum, skunk,
Skunk.
cat,
A cat. That's a good one.
feral.
Feral. Okay. No problem with me. A cat outdoors doesn't belong outdoors.
Agreed.
So
And so we look at it, the concept. It's like, well, all these captures and the animal's not going very far. It's similar to a conibear style.
mm-hmm.
And so looking at all of these points, now we have to look at the component sizes. Where can I get them made? How many components? How many different steps? How many pieces to the trap? And then the cost.
Right.
So I don't have just one manufacturer building the trap. I send it off to a place and they build the whole thing. It's not how it goes. So I come up with my idea. I go to my web guy, my tech guy. He writes the program for the CNC machine. They get laser cut, and then I have to send out prototypes to get made at the spring manufacturer, my pan manufacturer, or I'm going to get these stamped, I believe.
Yeah.
My other trap, the rodent tank, was not marked. I was told that I shouldn't mark it. If somebody else wants to sell it, I listened, and I'm kicking myself for that. Having them marked is very important as long as my name is on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a race to come out with these traps, And to me, it's a pride thing. I've got the idea. I'm trying my best to put it out there. If I can make them work, they work. But the hardest thing is trying to find the next best mousetrap.
Yes.
You know the history of mousetraps. There are hundreds and
Lots.
hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yep, and I want to talk to you about mousetraps when we get off live here, because I have an idea that I want to float by you. So um,
Sure.
that's awesome. So you have the connector. When do you think you'll go into production? After next year? After you test it out in your company for a while?
Well, I've got the process right now is so I'm sitting at a manufacturer, a local manufacturer.
Yeah.
I've got these meetings coming up where we've got to talk numbers.
Yeah.
If I get 2,000, 5,000, or 10,000 made, where my price point is going to be
Yeah.
per
Yeah.
unit, trying to keep it as cheap as possible. Because this one I would like to keep continuous run and
Yeah.
keep stocked. Where I'm going to look at fur trappers as well and try and maybe
Oh,
market this as
nice.
a different mink opportunity because it's
Nice.
smaller, it's lethal. That's a goal, but everybody knows right now the fur market has tanked.
Yeah.
The nuisance control business, once skilled enough, you can make pretty decent money at it, where you can make
Hmm.
quite a decent living at it.
Yeah.
The problem most people have is self-employment has its perks. You can work when you want to.
But it has its perks. You
You
can
have
work when
to
you want to.
you have to work. You have to
That's right.
continuously work.
I hear you. I hear you. No,
Every day, get out there, keep grinding away,
no.
keep having fun, keep doing the good stuff, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm not self-employed. I mean, I have a little side gig, but
Sure.
no, it's. I think it takes a special person to do that, to be the CEO of their own little company. I having done it, it's not for everybody.
No,
Sure.
it's not. But for an actual release date, a product release date, I would like to see April 1st, and
Oh wow.
not as an April Fool's joke
No,
either,
no,
but
no, no.
like
That's
an actual.
fast. That's really
It doesn't
fast.
take too long, so it's about a 2 to 3 week turnaround. When I put my order into the manufacturer, I get that done. Another 2 to 3 weeks for my springs,
Yeah.
and so the concept is pure. There's no flaws in the concept. And now putting it on paper, I've got several prototypes built where it works and it's
Right.
awesome. But now I have to decide if I'm going straight stainless, if I'm going to go powder coated, if I'm going to go just steel and dipped with a trap dip, longevity, and that all plays into my price points.
Yeah.
So if you look at, here's a great example. A friend of mine, James Coralsill from Canada, he used Canada, WCS Canada. I think he had sold that off to, oh, I can't recall his name. Nice gentleman up in Canada.
Yeah.
Anyways, his traps he's selling for like $14 a piece, I think.
Okay.
A little rodent
That's not bad.
coral traps.
Hmm.
It's not. Uh, Wholesale at like $11, 10, $11. You've got to sell a lot of volume to make some money.
Right.
I don't like that margin.
Yeah.
Being in the wildlife industry and know what we make doing bat work or repair work, getting paid for our skill set. And since I'm the manufacturer or the inventor, I want to see a return on this.
Sure. Sure.
So none of my ideas I patent. I don't look at any patent ideas. One, it's just a simple trap idea. Long term, it's not $1 million idea. And so I'm not really looking to protect it. I just have my name on it and say,
Yeah.
this is an
Yeah.
accomplishment. This is
Yeah.
going to go in a feather in my hat. Just another silly thing I've come up with.
Well, I don't know about silly. I'm not sure I'd phrase it that way. I think we need more. I want to always encourage more of this type of invention for our industry, because I've been amazed at the new technologies and equipment that have come out in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, you think about the ridge guard type things, you look at all the different traps that have been development, some of the technology, some of the materials, the Tomahawk Live Trap has come up with, things that Wildlife Control supplies, and I'm probably missing some other companies out there as well. There's a lot of these little niche products that have really helped our industry thrive, save time, and service customers in a variety of ways. So I think we need more of this. You
So
look at
they've cut the learning curve of the operators in half with the
yeah.
equipment advancements, the traps, the ladder safeties, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
rope safeties. Uh, it is amazing. The technology from uh, video camera sets where you set them on traps, notifications
Yeah.
coming from the very first models to where we're at now.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's amazing. And yeah, it's not like the same changes in the technology field, like, computers or something, but for us, this has been like a renaissance, in
it's
terms of the
it,
equipment, right? The techniques that have been coming out. I mean, the positive trap, you look at the types of the two-door trap, the Comstock trap. That was a kind of a game changer for cage trapping in a variety of ways. I mean, it's just been amazing. But finding labor has always been a problem, and then finding the ability to produce these products in small runs has been a challenge for inventors like yourself. How do you produce this that it's cheap enough that someone doesn't go broke buying it?
right.
Yeah,
And so it is a niche market, and so you can't really put it out on the public shelf and say, well, this is what it is. It's the
right.
next best mousetrap. When they can buy 30 mouse traps and then buy your trap for the same price.
Yeah,
A lot
it's
of
tough.
times I don't want that clientele. Same concept, I don't want every customer. I want that 60% of customers that know how to value and appreciate versus just price shopping.
Right.
That's just my model, and that's what I think would work. It might work. I'm kind of proving it into concept with, I did have, well, my rodent tank. I had a muskrat colony trap design, my mole trap pan design.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, I'm trying to think of the other one. Those three for sure. Rodent tank, the connector.
Yeah.
Uh, I,
keep
there's
keep keep going, man. Don't give up. So we're almost out of time here, so I want to be sure you tell people how they can get in touch with you and how they can monitor, if they wanted to. Is there an email list they can be on so they would know when your product is out for sale so they could be notified? How do they reach you?
Sure. So we do have a website. It is actively run and it's up to date. And I just don't sell my own handmade or modified traps. So I've got a little line of lures and some other trapping products, tomahawk traps we
Mm-hmm.
supply. The website is www.budstrapco.com. BUDS-TRAPCO.com.
.com.
And then if you
Okay.
want to get a hold of me via phone, it's 507-766-4050.
Okay.
Or if you want to shoot me an email,
Yeah.
you can go to budswildliferemoval@gmail.com.
Okay, everybody, you heard it here first at the Pest Geek Podcast, our Living the Wildlife. You heard about the new trap coming out called the Connector by Jordan Budenski of Budenski's Nuisance Wildlife Removal, and his manufacturing company is called Bud's Trap Company LLC. And if you want to visit him online, that's Bud's Trap Supply Company, budstrapco.com, budstrapco.com,
Yes.
budstrapco.com. Definitely check it out. I think you'll find this. He's producing products for the professional. Check him out. I'm not making any money on this, so if you're worried about me getting a cut, I'm not. This is simply getting it out there we're going to wrap it up here. Jordan, thanks so much for stopping by to the Pest Geek Podcast, Living the Wildlife edition. So we're really glad to have you, and don't be a stranger.
I appreciate it, Stephen.
All right.
Keep
Well,
up the work.
all right. Take care, everybody. Stephen Van Tassel here, Wildlife Control Consultant. Remember, we want you to live the wildlife, not be the wildlife. And this is part of the Pest Geek podcast system. Take a few moments, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Send me an email. Let me know what you think. If you want to be on the show, if you have a product or a service that you want to market, definitely reach out. wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.